Hello, everyone. Welcome to Where Are All the Women? I'm Megan Murphy. This is Mary Lou Singleton.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing, Mary Lou?
Pretty good. It's really hot here, as it is in many places. I'm just going to complain about it.
I know I'm getting sick of myself. Every time I start any interview, it starts with, how are you doing? Oh, I'm so hot.
Yeah.
Sweating so much.
It's hard to think about anything else when you're hot.
Well, yeah, because you just feel so gross all the time. I feel constantly greasy and nasty and I need to shower. And this happens every year, so I guess we're never going to get over it.
No, and then when it's cold in the winter, I'm going to complain about that.
I won't.
No, because you won't have that happening.
We do complain when it gets cold here, actually, and it's extremely pathetic because we'll have a couple months where at nighttime we'll need to wear a hoodie. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's so cold. So cold.
You need a blanket.
Yeah, I do enjoy that version of complaining. What do you think about, I feel like this is a stoicism thing. I mean, also annoying, I guess, mental, I don't know how you would describe them, wellness influencers and psychotherapists from the internet. But also I think it's a thing in stoicism where they say that you shouldn't complain because, I don't know, I mean, probably in part because it's annoying to listen to, but also because it reinforces maybe negative thinking or something like that. And I always think that's such bullshit because I don't think that complaining makes me feel worse about anything. I think it's it's just kind of a normal part of the human experience. People complain about stuff, whatever.
Like everything, it's nuanced. I think that I know fun complainers. I would put you in the category of a fun complainer, of someone who is, and then I know people who are just complaining all the time about everything. And I think they should stop complaining.
Okay. I think that's a good point because you're right. There are some people who are just genuinely really negative people and sort of have a victim mentality. And so their complaining is this cycle of I'm the victim of the world or of men or of women or whatever it is. And it's this Eeyore vibe that's so draining and unpleasant to be around. It's, when you're around somebody and they're constantly complaining about their partner or their ex, or, they're being treated badly at work, and it's something it's the kind of thing where you really do need to change your outlook on the world, or you need to take control of your life and change your life if it's that your whole life is like that.
I know. I'm getting tired of those kind of complainers, but I don't know how to parse it out because I like complaining with you. I think it's fun, but other people, I want them to just stop complaining to me.
Well, I think you've got it right, though, because I like complaining. I like hearing your complaints. I like complaining with my friends. I mean, it's similar to the way in which a certain contingent of people pretend as though gossiping is bad and we should all stop gossiping. And I'm like, no, first of all, that's ridiculous because humans have been gossiping since the dawn of humanity. That's just how we share news and relate to one another and, learn about what's going on in the village. And it's super fun. It's a great pastime. What the fuck else are we supposed to talk about? Should we be talking about politics? That would be a billion times worse and more boring.
I was listening to this storyteller, Martin Shaw. He's really interesting, and he was saying that there is old stories in Ireland that humans have to have drama and interesting lives because the fairies sit around campfires and gossip about us. They tell the stories of human ridiculousness. So yeah, I think we all get enlivened by hearing stories of other people and hearing the gossip. I wouldn't be surprised if humans invented language so we could gossip.
Yeah, I would think so, in the same way that we probably invented cave drawings to gossip about who's sleeping with who and Oh, or maybe, you know, so and so killed the boar. I don't know if
Mhm.
that counts as gossip, but
Yeah, the cave drawings don't usually have humans in them, though. I think it's so
are there not
interesting.
humans having sex in cave drawings? I thought that was like a
No, I
I
think
guess
there's
I've
maybe
never seen
one,
it
like a
before.
later one, but the really old ones from like 40,000 years ago are just animals. They didn't draw themselves. And some of the
Um,
imagery is so intricate. I really wish they had painted themselves because I want to know what they looked like.
well, it probably wouldn't be like a great replica.
There's like those ones from the caves in France, from that Werner Herzog movie, The Cave of Forgotten Dreams. The horses are so realistic that I think they could have drawn each other, but they didn't draw humans. They just drew animals. So
So the cave people, were they Neanderthals or what were they?
I don't know.
Okay, well, whatever the cave people were not narcissists. So that's
They
good to
weren't
know that this
narcissists.
isn't inherent to humans and we've just done this to ourselves in modern times.
That's good. Where all we can talk about is ourselves.
Selfies are not inherent to humans. Surprise,
Right. No
surprise.
cave selfies. Yeah. Fascinating.
Lee wants to know if I think that my dog gossips about me to other dogs. No, because my dog idealizes me and all she thinks about is me and staring at me, and she thinks that I'm the best. I mean, if she was gossiping about me, she'd be like, my mom is the best mom. Look at her.
Oh, yeah. That's what my dog would say too.
Yeah.
I think that Foxy would also tell people how great she is because she's a little bit narcissistic.
Okay. I don't think Adelita is even aware of her own existence. I think she's only aware of my existence.
That's nice. It's a nice quality in a
She's
dog.
very sweet.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't remember why I started talking about this. Do you?
Well, we were talking about complaining, and I wanted to complain about
Oh,
complainers a little more because I'm
yeah.
getting really tired about people complaining in this particular way that I'm hearing a lot right now, which is when I ask them how they're doing and they say, oh, well, how could anyone be happy given the current political environment?
Yeah.
And I just want to, it enrages me being
I
someone.
hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. It enrages me. And those are people who need to read some stoicism and also need to read like some Viktor Frankl, who literally wrote a book about how to be happy in a concentration camp. I think that's a great book for them to read, Man's Search for Meaning.
They should be reminded about concentration camps in general so that they stop saying ridiculous things about how much they hate living in fascist America.
Well, how can I be happy when there are concentration camps in Gaza and alligator Alcatraz?
Well, yeah, it's this
Yeah.
thing where it's like, how could I be happy when the world is burning and everything is falling apart and like everything is so terrible and chaotic? No wonder we're all so depressed. And I'm always like, first of all, we're not depressed. You're depressed. Your problem.
Yeah.
I'm not depressed. I'm good. Thank you. And you know, like I also am a kind of person who consumes a lot of media. So they can't use that as an excuse either. I mean, if that genuinely is your problem, then get off the internet and stop reading it. You know, there's a very obvious solution to this. But I don't even think it's that because, you know, I spend a lot of time trying to keep up with what's going on. And it doesn't make me depressed. Sometimes it makes me, I don't know, angry or annoyed or kind of bored or like more just like kind of exhausted of the news cycle that never ends. But, you know, the way to, you know, if you're feeling depressed, that's a you problem. That's not a world problem.
Oh, then they'll say, well, the world has never been this bad. And that's really offensive to everyone's ancestors. I just want to tell people, like, check in with your freaking ancestors before you complain, because chances are they will tell you things have never been better in your line. There is plenty of food. You have things like ibuprofen, which, you know, I'm not a big drug taker, but once or twice a year, oh my gosh, that stuff's amazing.
I take it once a month when I admittedly, like if I have cramps, that's probably the only time I take ibuprofen, but thank freaking God for that one day because it's a hell. It's awful. And you can't really function otherwise. So what a miracle. Thank you, Lord Pharma.
our ancestors would have loved to get their hands on that stuff, right? Like just that's a miracle drug. And then also not that long ago, people would die of things like tooth abscesses and ingrown toenails. Like this is a great time to be alive. It's a wonderful time to be alive.
Imagine dying of a tooth abscess or an ingrown, what hell, an ingrown toenail, like that much throbbing, horrific pain that you can't do anything about, and you just slowly suffer and die of it.
Maybe the barber surgeon would try to amputate your lower leg, but
you'd probably want to. If you were dying of an ingrown toenail, I feel like you'd try to cut your own foot off.
Right. But there were no antibiotics then, so that probably wasn't going to go well for you. Yeah, I think that it's so narcissistic and so insane that a large chunk of the population, most of them on a certain part of the political spectrum, are just bent on being depressed complainers right now.
Yeah. I mean, you know who it is? It's the people who protested that the Colbert show was ending. And those people are the most privileged, also like the biggest dorks on the planet. But those people all, as far as I could tell, were white, at least middle, if not upper class, mostly kind of, boomery looking. These people are the kinds of people of everything in the world who are stomping around in New York City complaining about living in a fascist nightmare.
Because
that's what they said. Did you watch this video?
I couldn't handle it. I just saw
Oh my God.
I just looked at I looked at it, but didn't click on it. Can you bring it up?
Yeah, I'm going to try to share it.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on here.
Remember when Colbert was actually funny? Like during the Bush administration, it was actually a pretty funny guy back then.
Yeah, I used to be a fan. Like many, many years ago.
Yeah.
I remember in maybe 2009 or something, he was in Vancouver for some reason, and my boyfriend and I at the time went down to see him. I didn't pay money to see Colbert, but he was at some event outside. Okay, let me see. Every time I try. Okay, let's see here. Can you see it?
Oh my God.
Trump must go. Trump must go. Trump must go. Trump must
When did we get back?
We refuse to accept
fascist. Okay, they're saying we refuse to accept a fascist America
because Colbert is being canceled,
and
because the show is losing money.
We refuse to accept a fascist America. They don't live. America's not a fascist country. Sorry,
if it were, they wouldn't be allowed to be protesting the president. That's a basic hallmark of a fascist society. You can't critique the government.
So Colbert's show was ended because nobody was watching, and it was losing millions and millions, like so much money, and like $40 million or something like that. Like late night is just not the thing anymore, period. But also people are sort of bored of that content, that kind of like wokey, Trump's a monster, go trans kids, like that kind of stuff was really popular 10, 15 years ago, and it's not anymore. People are over it. But I think people are just over that style of show and, TV in general. People don't really watch TV. I guess the boomers do, so that explains who's protesting.
Who's upset about it.
But, people stream series on Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that. This is just not, we live in a different world now.
Who called that protest? What kind of list are those people on that they knew the protest was happening? Who made all those signs that look exactly the same?
I know.
Interesting thing. Yeah, it didn't look very organic.
That's what I thought too. I tweeted that actually. I
Mm.
just tweeted, I just don't believe that this is an organic protest in part. And somebody, of course, responded acting like I was a crazy conspiracy theorist. But that's something it's a real thing that happens all the time where people are paid activists. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's true. Most of these protests, including the protests against ICE in LA and the deportations, those are well-funded, really well-organized protests. I'm not saying that there aren't people who are legitimately angry about that. I am saying that those protests are very well-funded and very well-organized by democratic organizations in America. Same with BLM. None of the, I don't think these big protests that aren't shut down by the government or the cops. So I'm saying, with the exception of the Freedom Convoy, and they, Trudeau essentially invoked martial law, or he invoked the Emergencies Act, which hasn't been evoked ever in history. And other versions of the Emergency Act was invoked in 1970 something or other to protect against an actual terrorist group. But these protests and rallies, the pro-Hamas rallies that are happening all across Canada and Toronto and Vancouver and Victoria and Montreal, that are all permitted to go on and on and on, to stop traffic, to take over malls, to stop people from going to work, to terrorize people. Those are not being shut down by the government or the cops. And people think that these are a threat to the establishment, to governments, to the cops. Like this makes no sense. But they're funded and organized by organizations as real. And you look at this stupid protest because Colbert's late night show is ending, that they're associating with Trump somehow, as though this is comparative, like bring back Colbert, get rid of Trump. Like, he's the elected president. He was elected democratically. These are also the same people who would claim to be pro-democracy because, of course, they're fascism. It's so stupid. They're so stupid.
When he was elected in large part because people are sick of those left-wing scolds who I would imagine all of those, the people at the Colbert.
And dances to vaccine mandates or whatever.
Right. All of those so-called late night talk show hosts were pushing the forced vaccine narrative. Were saying things like Jimmy Kimmel was saying that unvaccinated should be left to die. They shouldn't be allowed treatment if they got into things like motorcycle accidents or had heart attacks. Colbert did that crazy vaccine dance. Remember that? How creepy that
that's
was?
What I was trying to reference with. Did they all dressed up as like needles?
Yeah, there's a syringe. Syringe, No one thinks it's funny. The vast majority of Americans don't like it. As I'm not foolish enough to believe that Trump is some great person, but the thought of those woke scolds getting back into power frightens me so much that I'm like willing to put up with a lot from the Republicans to avoid those people being back in power again, because
I don't know that Trump's a bad person as an individual. I think he might well be like a nice, good person as an individual, but he's a politician, which means he's compromised.
His ruling class. Yeah, I don't think anybody in that position of power is on my side. But I definitely would prefer.
Is that how you decide who's a good person or not? Whoever's on your side.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think he's on the people's side. Like he has different class interests than I have. He's not. I don't think I think, yeah. But
no, you can't expect that of a politician. I mean, I think what you can expect, the best that you can expect from a politician is transparency, and that he does what he says he's going to do. So he makes some promises. He says, I care about these things. These are the things I'm going to take care of if I'm president. And then he actually does them. He does what the people want. He treats his job as though it's a job, and that his bosses are the people in a democracy. And I think in a lot of ways he has and has done that. In other ways, not so much. Obviously, Epstein is a good example.
Yeah, and some of the free speech violations around Israel and anti-Semitism concern me a lot. But there was literally nothing I can think of that was done by the Biden administration that I was happy about.
No.
And I'm thrilled that Jay Bhattacharya is the head of the National Institutes of Health. I love it that Vinay Prasad is in charge of new vaccine approvals. I think it's great that RFK Jr. is talking about the ghoulish abuses happening in the organ harvesting industry. We need to talk about that. It's beyond horrifying. And Trump's rocking it on the trans issue.
Yeah. I just want to mention that I'm seeing some people asking questions in the live chat, and that's great. I love it. Can you please use the super chat so that I notice and see all the questions, because I can't keep track of everything going on in the live chat. I would also like to mention that if you're watching on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's helpful. I appreciate it. My fan just died, so I'm about to get sweatier than I was before, and I have the AC on so freaking low, man. And yeah, use the super chat. Okay, Lee is saying, have the anti-immigrant riots shown on the news happened where you live? Haha, no. If yes, what do you think about that? Oh, man, I don't know. First of all, it's stupid, and something like that would never happen here because I live in a tourist town, and the people who work here depend on gringos and the tourists a lot for an income. I mean, people come to Sayulita to work because they can work in restaurants and bars and things like that. So it would be against their interests. I mean, it's sort of against everybody's interests to have those kinds of protests because, the economies are improved, because I've seen the same kind of thing happen in various places in Europe. Also, like, I think, where was it happening? Like somewhere in Spain, I think.
Portugal or Spain.
Portugal.
Yeah.
And they're big tourist towns where it's happening. And I was like, come on, man. Like, everybody who works there relies on the tourists. I don't like the tourists either. And I actually really don't like gentrification. And I do see that. I mean, everyone here knows that's a big problem, and it's an issue, and people talk about it, and people try to keep other people in check, which is that, a lot of these digital nomads will show up for the high season and start offering crazy amounts in rent that they can pay. They'll say, hey, like, I'm looking for a 1-bedroom and my budget is 30,000 pesos. And people in the WhatsApp group or on Facebook or wherever they're posting, in all of these groups, there's a rule where you're not allowed to post rents for this particular reason, because then the landlords see it. And these are locals, by the way. The problem is not only with white people, it's also with a lot of local people who live here and want to, get theirs.
Yeah. Because humans are greedy all over the planet.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just white people.
White people did not invent
a global issue.
Right.
People being greedy and wanting to make as much money as they can, and being opportunistic. So then all of a sudden, all the rents are bumped up, and the locals and the people who are working here can't afford to live here anymore because some gringo who's showing up for 4 months so that she can be like a biohacker influencer. And it prices people out, and it's really irresponsible. And, towns and cities do get ruined by gentrification and by that kind of thing. You can see it in Tulum. I went to Tulum one time. It was disgusting and awful. I didn't even feel like I was in Mexico because entire areas were just condos and white people, rich white people. All of the beaches had been overtaken by resorts, so they weren't even free areas. And all of the locals were living in these essentially ghettos and living in tin can shacks. And it was just depressing, and it ruins. There's no community when you're living in that kind of situation. So, I get it. But it's not as simple as white versus Mexican or gringo versus Mexican. And I mean, it's something that happens everywhere too. I mean, Vancouver was gentrified. Where I used to live in Vancouver was once a working class ethnic neighborhood, and it became a fun hipster neighborhood, and there were cool little bars and music and art things going on, and then eventually it got super bougie and everyone got priced out, and now it's full of gross yuppies and condos and people who aren't from Vancouver and who are from elsewhere, and there's no community and there's no regulars, and all the old bars and cafes were shut down and priced out. Like, it's a problem. It's also a reality. And, you know, it would be nice if people were more aware of it, but I don't know that harassing white people on the street is going to resolve the problem, especially not if all the white people leave, and then I think that will happen. But if all the white people leave and tourists are too scared to come to Mexico, that's going to cause a lot of problems for Mexicans and people who are working here as well. So it's just, like everything, more nuanced than a lot of people make it out to be. But yeah, use the super chat if you have more questions. Oh Lord, I'm starting to sweat. Okay, so sorry, I'll try to stop talking about sweating, but obviously I never will.
Who could be happy when it's so hot and Trump's the president?
Me.
There you go.
I'm gonna complain a lot though. Did you watch that video of Hunter Biden talking about crack?
No, I didn't. I missed all the things. I've just been very busy.
Okay. Well, it's in the links on the document that I prepared for you, as always.
I did not do any of my homework, Megan. I didn't do any
How
of
are we supposed to talk about any of these things? Okay, so there's this video of Hunter Biden. He's being interviewed by someone, and he's talking about the difference between crack and cocaine, and saying, you know, that actually, you know, crack isn't really that bad for you, which I think is actually true. I mean, I think that crack is really addictive. Like, I think crack is, I've never smoked crack personally, but I have had an ex-boyfriend who was a crack addict. So I'm aware of crack and crack addiction. And I think crack really does seem to be a lot more addictive than cocaine. And presumably it's because you probably know more about this than I do because you're a nurse. But I assume that the reason that people get really into crack is because it gets into your system or your brain a lot faster than cocaine does. And so, is this true? Do you know anything about this?
I don't know the exact mechanism that makes it more addictive. I think it comes on faster, it leaves faster. That is generally a hallmark of a more addictive substance.
Okay.
It was so much cheaper as well for a long time. You know, in the 80s and 90s when the crack addiction issue was spreading, crack was way more accessible than cocaine because it was cheap. But
isn't crack made out of cocaine? Like, isn't it just a process of taking cocaine and cooking it down? This is sort of what Hunter Biden was trying to explain in this interview.
Like, it's more refined in the same way that, you know, white cane sugar is more addictive than honey or tea made out of like the sugarcane plant. Like, the more you refine things, the faster they act, the more addictive they are in the body if they are addictive substances. You know, like chewing coca leaves is the least addictive way. So the levels of refinement tend to increase the addictive nature of something. I don't know. I don't know how you get from powdered cocaine to crack. And I don't know why crack was so cheap in the 80s. Who was that reporter for the Sacramento Bee who wrote about the CIA bringing all the crack into the cities, and then he was found suicided and shot himself in the back, and it was a suicide. But what was his name? I can't even remember his name. It'll pop into my head later. But a lot of people believe the cities were flooded with crack by the U.S. government to destroy the infrastructure and destroy the urban communities in the United States. That it was cheap.
I've heard this also. I mean, the reason that I bring this up is because I saw that Anna Slatz tweeted. She's pretty funny. She really hates men, though. I gotta say that I think she's a genuine man hater, as much as many of us are accused of being man haters.
She has a right.
Genuinely, really, does she?
Yeah, you have a right to hate whoever you want. And
you have the right to hate all men as a whole. I mean, you have the right to do whatever. But I guess I meant I took that as it's justified.
I mean, she has a right to do it. Yeah, I think if I had her job and was constantly researching what perverted men around the planet are doing, I might have a different view on men. And I didn't have any nice men in my life. No, I'm not going to justify it, but she has a right. I don't think we should make hating men illegal.
No, I don't either. I feel like you're not engaging in good faith with me, Mary Lou.
No, I'm not. I love Anna Slats. I think she's hysterical.
No, I love her too. I think she's hilarious too. I just meant like I would never make hating anyone illegal. I think everyone has the right to hate everybody and everything that they want, and I think it's actually again quite fun. But she is very funny, and so she tweeted, Hunter Biden is a 50-year-old passionate crackhead, but looks younger and healthier than that 47-year-old billionaire who is so petrified of aging that he uses his own son as a blood bag. Lesson here. And I was like, yes, this is what I've been trying to say for so long. What is Brian? Oh, she's talking about Brian Johnson. Did you know about this guy who looks like a wax figure? He's super weird. He was trying to experiment on himself, basically to see if he could, get younger, live forever, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So he had this really intense. There was a documentary that came out about him in the past year, which I watched, and I just thought, what a hell nightmare of a life. Why would you want to live forever like this? But because he was on such a strict regimen in terms of everything that he was injecting into himself, and when he would go to bed and when he would get up, and his exercise and what he would eat, and it was all just so unpleasant and not fun. And what is the point? But he doesn't look great. He looks weird. He looks like an alien. Maybe arguably he would be wrinklier and fatter if he wasn't doing all those things. I thought it was weird because I think he wasn't even eating meat. And I think that humans need to eat meat to be healthy and to feel good and to live a long time. I think so too. Yeah. I found that strange. But all that aside, I've always said that being really regimented about your life, like these people who don't have any fun and they go to bed at 9 p.m. and they wake up at 5 p.m. and they go out for a run, and then they are so strict about what they eat and what they do, and they never party and they don't smoke or drink or, eat what I think everybody should be regimented about their lives, like everything in moderation and, do your best. But you also, it's your only life and you want to live it. And I gotta say, I've said this before, but all these people who say, don't ever drink alcohol because you'll die and it'll age you and so on and so forth. I mean, I've been drinking since technically I've been drinking since I was 15 years old, but I don't know, I still party and I still live a healthy life and I look way younger than most people my age. And I think that I'm happier and healthier than most of them too. And I just don't think, and she's right, he does look good for 55 and he's a crackhead.
He's a crackhead. Yeah, totally.
It just goes to show that this is all kind of bullshit. All these Andrew Huberman types who are like, alcohol is the devil and you need to, there's truth in everything to a certain extent. Every day you need to stare into the sun for 5 minutes and you need to get this amount of nutrition and this exercise exactly like this. Otherwise you're doing it wrong. I mean,
you're doing it wrong. Give me money and I'll tell you how to do it right.
You also just kind of need to chill and enjoy your life a little bit, I think.
Totally. Because we're all going to die. So have a good time.
Yeah.
I remember the name of that journalist, Gary Webb. It was driving me nuts. So Gary Webb, and he was found. Yeah. Remember that? Do you remember the CIA crack story?
No, I do. I've heard of this story. Yeah, I think I watched. Yeah. I watched that. There was a documentary about
And he was
crack
found
and
with
ghettos, and they
two.
talk about it.
Yeah, he was found with 2 gunshot wounds to the head, and it was ruled a suicide. Like you
Hilarious.
can't do that. You can't shoot yourself twice in the head. Like it's just impossible that you could do that, right? Like, oh, anyway.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's So Hunter Biden is an unapologetic cocaine aficionado.
Well, I think he's supposedly talking about this as somebody who's not currently doing crack. Like he sort of mentions, he's like, well, I don't want to get into this. If he's thinking about crack, he's getting excited about crack. So he was sort of trying to not do that to himself in the process of the interview. So obviously it's something that he's struggling with. So I'm sort of assuming that he's currently trying to stay sober. But the interviewer was asking him about crack. And I mean, it's one of those things where people who don't do drugs and people who don't party tend to have a lot of ideas and opinions about drugs and partying that aren't true. Like, yes, addiction is really bad. And things like alcoholism can really destroy your life and the lives of others. But drinking and partying and doing drugs can also be really fun and totally fine for lots and lots of people. For some people, not. And people who don't do drugs, I think, have this idea that if you do a drug, you instantly get addicted and become a street person.
Instant addiction. Did they mention, like, did they question him about,
or that everybody who likes drinking is an alcoholic? And that
everybody, everyone who likes drinking is it's a nuanced conversation. But I'm just wondering whose cocaine was found in the White House. And
I'm sure Hunter Biden's or somebody else's. I'm sure lots of people who work at the White House do cocaine. Lots of people do cocaine.
Every administration, I see, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure all of the presidents had people around them doing cocaine. Maybe I'm sure some of the presidents were doing cocaine as well. I think Trump is actually totally clean and sober and always had, like, I don't think he's ever
I think
drank.
he's a teetotaler,
I remember when they tried to accuse him of doing cocaine or being a coke addict because he was sniffling during some debate or something like that. But I think he's actually a pretty clean, upstanding citizen in that regard.
Yeah, I think he doesn't like the substances.
But
do you feel? I wonder if Hunter Biden will try to get involved in politics if this is like a poising for that. Yeah,
maybe.
Did you see the Meghan Kelly interview with Rahm Emanuel?
Yes, I wasn't familiar with this guy, but I did see he's the ex-mayor of Chicago. This is what I've ascertained. And he said that men can't become women. He's a Democrat. So he said men can't become women, so that was big.
It was big, but he was Obama's chief of staff. Like he's a big deal. He's a big deal in the DNC. And people, a lot of the blue, no matter who, still Democrat turfs are excited about it, but it just infuriated me. It just made me so angry that he would decide at this moment, whenever it's not dangerous at all for him to say this, to state the obvious that men can't become women and men shouldn't be in women's prisons and men shouldn't be in women's sports. I wasn't happy at all.
No, I agree with you. And I think it's funny because I did see some of these, feminist types who I think that they've tried to start some kind of movement around getting Democrats to change their minds about trans things. And, we just need to explain this to them and then they'll get it. Right. But nobody's getting it because it's being explained to them in that position. I think they already know, and they're just changing their minds and saying this because they see the tides turning. And now it's sort of like a cooler thing to say. It's the same reason why Gavin Newsom said, I'm paraphrasing, that it was unfair for males to compete in female sport. Like he was worried about his daughter if she had to compete against a male or something like that in sports. And he's trying to be this reasonable, cool guy now because that's the thing, that's the tides have turned in that favor. But I saw some of those feminist Democrat types getting all excited about it. And I just don't think it matters at all. I mean, what difference does it make? And these people have proven themselves not to be trustworthy, and that they aren't going to listen to women on this issue no matter what. They're not changing their mind because they're listening to women. I think that, Trump did go hard on the trans issue because he did listen to a lot of women, and because, again, he's working for the people, and he saw this as an issue that the people cared about, in particular the people who would like to vote for him. But he obviously did listen to women on his staff, giving him very turfy arguments, which were then included in his in his executive orders.
Absolutely. All of the executive orders are brilliant turf analysis. They're they just echo what the smart turfs. There you go. I think it's cowardly. I think it's opportunistic. I find it infuriating. The Gavin Newsom one is even more infuriating because he's literally suing the Trump administration to keep boys and girls sports and to keep the men in women's prisons. And he's risking losing all federal education funding because he's so committed to boys' right to dominate female sports. But then he has, he comes out and says he doesn't think it's fair. At the same time, it's such doublespeak. It's so disingenuous.
Yeah, he's a total two-faced liar who doesn't care about anything except for his ego and his own power and money, probably.
Right.
Again, I just want to remind people watching you on YouTube to like and subscribe, and to please use the super chat if you have comments or questions you want us to address on the stream. I have a question for you. Would you have sex with a robot? I actually have a more detailed question about robots. So it's that because I felt like obviously I would never have sex with a robot, but this was the actual question that Wilfred Riley asked on X, which is, would you have sex with a skilled, attractive-looking robot if single? And I responded immediately and said, no, this is purely a man thing. And then a bunch of people in my comments insisted, men in particular, that actually lots of women would probably have sex with robots because women love vibrators. And I started to second guess myself. And I was like, maybe it's just me that doesn't want to have sex with a robot or a vibrator for that matter. Personally, I like having sex with human beings and only human beings. So maybe that's just a weird me thing.
I think vibrators have paved the way for human robot sex for sure. I think a lot of women have a lot of oxytocin release going on with machines, and I think we need to talk about that. And I think, I do think a lot of women would have sex with a robot as well. I don't, at first,
how would you become turned on or attracted, turned on by or attracted to a robot? Like, where would that come from?
Well, people masturbate. Like, they would just, it would be like a masturbatory tool.
Okay. I guess this is just a thing that I don't relate to.
But they're going to form feelings for it because it's going to be programmed with AI, and people are already falling in love with AIs and thinking the AI is their friend or their oracle or their spiritual advisor. And that piece, like, it's going to be more like having sex with a cyborg. Sorry, my phone's ringing.
Yeah, because I think that if what Wilfred is saying is that, because if he's saying an attractive looking, he's talking about a humanoid.
A humanoid, right?
Technically like handsome and attractive. And then, I'm presumably programmed with AI to make you feel like you were relating to and connecting with a real human being. I mean, I would not do it because I just don't think that would work on me. I'm attracted to real human beings that look and act and smell and feel like real human beings with human being personalities that for whatever reason I'm attracted to, probably because of like toxic family issues. But my attachment issues, things like that. but like I would also not do it on principle.
No, I wouldn't do it on principle. I think it's really dangerous. I think it's going to become normal. I think we're normalizing all kinds of insanity. They're working so hard on the cybernetic organisms. They're really working to create the skin-like surfaces and make the robots warm and make the robots more human-like all the time. And I think both men and women will be having robot sex. The robots will be programmed differently, to appeal to the different sexes. But the fact that so many women prefer their vibrators to human sex partners makes me think a lot of women would have sex with a robot.
Is that true that a lot of women prefer their vibrators to human men?
Oh, I hear it all the time because the vibrator gets them off and the men don't. Okay. Vibrators are so common and so popular. And,
I guess I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
I mean, people think that I'm weird because I'm not into vibrators. And I'm like, why would I be into a vibrator?
Well, then we're going to it's going to overlap. Here's my prediction. It's going to overlap with the psychiatrization of society and people getting so into their specialness and their unique labels. And if you are opposed to human robot sex, it's because you are neurotypical and therefore oppressive to the autistic people who like robots, or the special people, or there's a robot for whatever my psych diagnosis that I like to take on is. It makes me need to be with robots, or it makes me, I'm special and different. So robot sex is right for me. And if you critique it, you're a terrible person. I think that's going to be happening in the same way the transgender insanity, it has taken off. And now the detransitioners who still feel different and special and, all identify as autistic and ADHD. So, we can't relate to them. Like the people who like the robot sex will find some way to feel different and special. And
yeah, the nerd losers will like robot sex. Probably, you're right. They're the same people who are doing AI relationships and who like the AI companions that Elon Musk invented for Grok, who play video games and have entire lives online and don't know humans in real life.
Right. But it's like, you don't understand their suffering, that they have anxiety and they have specialness that you would never understand. So you can't critique it. And meanwhile, we need to stop like coddling all this insanity and make people like get outside and have real relationships instead of making everybody crazier and crazier and crazier.
Yeah, but a lot of the making people crazier and crazier and crazier thing is for profit, like totally. The big tech guys and the big pharma people glom on to these types who claim to be autistic or have ADHD or have social anxiety or whatever it is. So they can't go outside and they can't have real life relationships and they can't get off the internet and they need to be addicted to drugs and they need to be fat and unhealthy. And then they're offered AI companions and they all work together to say, well, some people need these things, just like it was said for a long time. I mean, it's still said now that, men need prostitutes because they can't form relationships with real women in real life and they're lonely and they're socially awkward. So they need access to an underclass of women to fuck them. Because they're just sad and different men who have it hard.
Right. And what about the disabled men? And what about the, whatever group of men that they have to use prostitutes? It's their human right to have sex. And who else is going to have sex with them?
I mean, I think one of the main reasons that I thought that robot sex would be just a male desire was because there's not really any market for sex dolls. There's not any female market for male or female sex dolls. Like that's really just a market of men who want female or child sex dolls.
Yeah, there's not. And the vibrator is not like humanoid in shape at this point, and I wonder if women would just stick with the vibrators, or if they would want a humanoid vibrator, like they would want, yeah.
I don't know. This is why I started to second guess myself, because I thought, well, obviously. And then people start saying, oh, well, it's because women feel shame about wanting sex. I'm like, no, they don't. We live in a society of hoes right now. Like, come on.
Totally.
Like, the entire younger generation of women are thoughting themselves on the internet constantly and have no qualms throwing themselves at men in ways that I feel are so desperate and embarrassing. And I'm just constantly being like, oh my God, put your ass away and have some class and let him chase you. Like, don't DM him. Don't send him nudes. You don't even know this guy. Stop desperately posting yourself all over the internet trying to get attention from strange men.
I know. Yeah, I heard someone say recently, well, our society is so sexually repressed. And I just laughed out loud. I was like, okay, no, it's not. It is not sexually repressed at all.
It should be more sexually repressed.
Yeah, we could deal with, definitely more restraint. And if we need to move the whole way to repression, I'll take it, because I'm, really tired of how hypersexual our culture is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, young women are constantly pretending that they enjoy casual sex and are fine with casual sex and are happy to just sleep around and meet up with a random guy from a dating app and hook up with him. And that's fun and satisfying.
So I guess a question of like, what makes something a robot? And could you argue the vibrator is already a robot?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I'm going to Google what is a robot.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
I think of the term robotic surgery, which just means, a human is using little tiny tools that the human is guiding inside the person who's being operated on. So is a vibrator already a robot?
Okay, well, the dictionary says that a robot is a machine resembling a human being and able to replicate certain human movements and functions automatically. But then it also says that a robot is a machine. It's cool that they're doing drilling work on my roof at, 8 p.m. here?
That's great.
I guess it's better than what they usually do, which is to like wake me up at 6:30 a.m. and then for 2 hours and then stop for the rest of the day. I'm like, do you think you could do this at noon instead of when I'm sleeping right outside my window? Anyway, it also says a robot is a machine capable of carrying out a complex series of actions automatically, especially ones programmable by a computer. I mean, you could argue, I think it doesn't fit. And, when most people think about robots, they think of humanoid type robots. So I think we can kind of go with that as an assumption that we're talking about human-like machines that are supposed to emulate human beings. But, I bet there are vibrators. I mean, I know that I think there's vibrators that are controllable by a remote. So maybe you could argue that a vibrator that was controllable by some kind of computery thing, like your smartphone or something like that, was some version of a robot.
Right. It's sad. Emily Hancock has been writing about vibrators and breast pumps and just women bonding with machines in these ways, just like breast pump culture. And
I just don't know why you want to. I mean, it just doesn't seem fun to me. It seems really depressing.
It's kind of depressing. It's lonely. It's like porn, it's just like there's something depressing about it. But humans masturbate. It's what they do. It's like, one of the things they do. It's the bonding with the machines that I find distressing. So yeah, I think everybody's going to really like the sex bots, male and female. They'll just be designed a little differently.
Okay, so did you follow the biggest news story of the week?
What was it?
The CEO of Astronomer having an affair with his head of HR at the Coldplay
How could I not? Yeah, I had to follow that one. I had no choice. It was my algorithm presented it to me again and again and again. Yes. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, I think there were some interesting debates that came out of it. I don't know that I have some. I think having affairs is bad. Well, I'll start with that. I think it's bad to have an affair. I think that if you are going to cheat on your partner, then you should leave your partner first. Because I think that the worst part about being cheated on, or if your husband or wife or long-term partner or whatever has an affair on you, is that you feel embarrassed and betrayed. Obviously, if somebody breaks up with you, you're going to feel really sad, but it's okay to feel sad, and it's okay to feel heartbroken, and it's okay to feel rejected. It sucks, but I think there's valor and integrity in that, and that you get to leave with your dignity intact. And I think it's really important. I think that if you want to leave somebody to the point where you're like, if you're about to cheat or have an affair and you know that you're like getting this close and you're going to do it, you're not going to stop yourself, then you break up with the person first and then you go have the affair. And I think that that's like, if you're genuinely wanting to get into a relationship with somebody else, that's the best way to get into a relationship with somebody else too. Because I don't know that if I was a man is married to a woman, he wants to have an affair with me, we have some kind of connection. I don't think I would want to get into a relationship with the kind of guy who would have an affair on his wife or cheat.
Yeah.
You know, you would have trust issues with that man forever. And would you respect the kind of person that would do that? I don't think I would. So on both ends, the right thing to do is end it. I'm not sure why so many people have a hard time doing that. I guess because they're cowards.
Yeah, I think they want this. They're getting different things out of the different relationships, and they want the stability of their marriage. They don't want to lose their marriage, but they want to have sex with somebody else.
But it's obviously more than sex. Like, obviously this guy was in a full-on relationship with this woman. And I saw a lot of commentary on the internet, which I found very amusing and enjoyed quite a bit, of, you know, some women being like, oh, I guess men do like girl bosses after all. They're not only after, 20-year-old passive dum-dums who will do whatever you tell them, because this was obviously an older lady in like a pretty high power position in this guy's company.
Right. I think it's really ironic that she was the head of HR, which is the branch of the company that tells everyone not to have intra-office affairs.
That is funny. I want to figure out how old this woman was.
Yeah, I felt kind of sad for them. I also feel like it's always nice for the plebes to see the rich humiliated. There's always some, vicarious. There's always like some collective joy in watching that happen to really rich people. I felt bad for their families. And then I liked watching Matt Walsh's take on it, saying that people who have affairs should be put in jail and this should be a massive criminal offense. Did you see his take on that? Yeah.
I did, yes. I was just trying to figure out how old Kristen Cabot is. 52. Yeah, the wife was 52. Sorry, the wife was 50 as well. The chief of HR, Kristen Cabot, was 52. I don't know if I'm saying her last name correctly. Astronomer CEO was, he was 57. Like, yeah, it's just funny because again, young men on the internet who exist mostly in internet forums are always pretending like men always want much younger women and don't like powerful women. And I keep saying that it's not true because I know it's not true from, personal experience. And, actually, like, most of the men that are interested in me are younger than me. I mean, older as well, but there's a lot of much younger men who are interested. Like men like older women, men like women the same age as them. This is just a reality. But I'm sorry, what question did you just ask?
What did I ask? I don't know. Oh, Matt Walsh.
Oh yeah, Matt Walsh.
Take that he thinks adultery should be like a criminal offense.
I mean, that's ridiculous. It can't be. Like, because he wasn't just saying that oh my God. He wasn't just saying that cheating on your wife or husband should be a criminal offense for the person doing the cheating, but he was also saying that it should be a criminal offense for the person that the husband or wife is cheating with.
Right.
But I
for
was
both
like,
of them.
but they didn't sign a contract. I mean, the only way that you could argue that made sense is if the contract, the contract is a legal contract, so you broke the law.
Mm-hmm.
But the person that, the CEO is having an affair with didn't have a contract with anybody that she broke. So what exactly is the criminal offense there?
Well, it's a civil contract, it's not that kind of legal contract. Like it's a civil contract, so there'll be issues if you're suing for divorce, but no, it's not a criminal offense to break that kind of contract any more than it's a criminal offense to say you're going to hire someone to do your bathroom and sign a contract with them and then tell them the next week I hired somebody else who's cheaper. Like that person can sue you, but you're not going to go to jail for that. Like the American legal system doesn't work that way. And B, what Matt Walsh is arguing is actually very Islamic. Like that's Sharia law. Except
but I think Matt Walsh would like Sharia law.
Well, yeah, or some Christian version of it.
Yes. I mean, I'm just saying, I know that it's not illegal to do that, but I'm just saying that, like, hypothetically, if you are going to make an argument, so he says, this was his tweet. One of my least popular, but still correct opinions is that adultery would be a criminal offense punishable by serious prison time for both parties involved. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we're going to make an argument in defense of that argument. I think you could arguably, it's a bad argument, say, you signed a legal contract, you broke the contract,
right?
That's a crime. But you can't rationally charge a free agent with behaving like a free agent in that scenario. There's no contract, there's no legal question, there's no crime.
Yeah. I do feel bad for their respective families, and I always feel kind of sad when people get caught sneaking around, but I don't really feel a lot of compassion for these people because they're very, very wealthy, and again, I take some, like a lot of Americans, there's some joy in watching the train wrecks that involve the wealthy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the wife, I guess. I certainly don't feel bad for the people involved.
No, she's going to get like an amazing payout though, probably, but it's sad.
Yeah. Well, the embarrassment. I don't know if people understand cheating. Like people think that it's about jealousy, but it's not about jealousy. It's about humiliation and disrespect.
And betrayal.
And lying and betrayal.
Right.
I think, so the resulting debate is what's part of what I thought was interesting. So Matt Walsh got into like an argument with Andrew Tate.
Oh, gross.
Over this. And so
it's going to make me take Matt Walsh's side, probably.
It did make me take Matt Walsh's side actually. So it happens every once in a while. I'm like, oh God, I agree with Matt Walsh. I'm joking. I don't mind agreeing with Matt Walsh sometimes. I don't have to disagree with Matt Walsh all the time.
Yeah.
Because I agree with him about most things. Okay, so Matt Walsh tweeted this thing that I just read. One of my least popular but still correct opinions is that why can't I say the word adultery?
Adultery?
Reading it, adultery. Thank you. I was like, adultery? It's like, that's not right.
Adultery.
Is this what happens to you when you're a writer and you're just like, you write and like, hey, how do you say that word out loud?
How do I say that word? Yeah.
Adultery? No, should be a criminal offense, punishable by serious prison time for both parties involved. And Andrew Tate responds and says, great way to put the nail in marriage's coffin, as if Andrew Tate cares about marriage.
I know, right?
Nobody gets married anymore because of women like her. Men are men, always have been and will be. He's allowed, she isn't. Telling men if they touch another girl any point in their lives equals financial decimation is why nobody gets married anymore. And then Matt Walsh responds and says, I disagree. Loyalty and integrity are essential virtues for a man. See, you're agreeing with Matt Walsh now.
Yeah.
If you make a vow before God, you keep it. Sneaking around with another woman while your wife is at home with your children is a violation of the promise you made to her and to God, therefore unmanly and weak. And then he goes on to say, I have 4 sons and raised them to always keep their promises. Never make a promise you don't intend to keep. That is fundamental. And this is true and good. I mean, this is ethics and morals. You know, you do what you say you're going to do. You make a promise, you keep it, you act with integrity. And, you know, regardless of what men are at their base, you know, these arguments are so bad because you're saying, well, what's natural to men or how men are. And it's like, well, you can say that about all humans. I mean, morals and ethics don't come natural to all humans. That's why we have laws or why we have social norms. Because otherwise people will just kill each other and steal from one another and abuse one another. Not all people, but really a lot of people will.
Right.
And that's why certain things are designated to be crimes and there's punishment for those crimes, or, you know, why you're punished in society for behaving badly. And it's important to act with integrity for a lot of reasons, and even individual personal reasons. You know, I don't think that I care about integrity and authenticity and, you know, loyalty and doing what I say I'm going to do and, you know, trying to be honest and truthful as best I can, because I think I'm going to go to hell if I don't, although I probably on some level feel like there'll be bad karma. I'm sure on a lot of levels, actually, I feel like I'll be subject to bad karma if I do bad things, but also because I know that it makes me like myself and trust myself better as a human being when I behave that way.
Yeah. Andrew Tate is just so disgusting. And he's so disgusting, he makes Matt Walsh look like a good guy.
I mean, what do you think the ethics and morals are for, and why people, you know, maintain, like, why is it important to have integrity and to be authentic and to be loyal and to keep your promises?
Because it makes a better world. And it's like you said, it's important to have a functioning society. And I don't want to see the world just to descend into barbarism where we're ruled by warlords like Andrew Tate seems to want to be. You know, I think that we have enough examples from human history of men who think like Andrew Tate, ruling villages, you know, invading other villages, taking women as rape slaves, and justifying it all because this is their version of human nature. It's just how men are. I don't like that. I think that the foundational blocks of Western civilization created a much better deal for women, a much better environment to raise children in, and created a lot of amazing accomplishments that we still are enjoying the fruits of. And I don't think that barbarism and male warlords create the same thing. They destroy every culture they invade.
But most people aren't thinking about that. So like on a personal level, well, they're not. Like most people are not operating the world thinking about what's good for the entire world. They're operating on a level of, you know, what's good for them. And maybe if they're religious, like what's good for God, or, you know, what's good for their families, or maybe what's good for their communities, or they're doing what they've learned from their families, if their
Mm-hmm.
families, if their parents instilled good morals and ethics in them, then they're following that path. But like on an individual level, do you think that there's any reason why people should act with integrity and authenticity and keep their promises and tell the truth and to
Yeah.
behave with integrity and in an honorable way towards other people, particularly
Yeah.
towards their partners or something like that? The
Absolutely.
people in their lives, their friends.
I think that it makes for a more comfortable and prosperous life to live that way. And I think that when we're living out of our integrity, we feel anxious and we don't have good relationships with other people, and our quality of life degrades. Where when we live an honest life of personal responsibility and helping other people out where we can, we're more at peace emotionally and mentally, and we're more prosperous because our role in the community expands and people appreciate having us around and will help us out as well. I think it just creates a better life.
Yeah, I think you're right. I often think that a lot of people who feel really anxious and don't like themselves feel that way because they're not living with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And so they actually have something that they feel guilty and ashamed about. They're
Mm-hmm.
not living authentically. They're trying to pretend to be someone they're not. They're living a lie. Or,
Right.
they're behaving in ways that they fundamentally don't respect, but won't acknowledge that or correct it or deal with it. And that will give you anxiety. Like,
Totally.
usually I feel like if I feel anxiety, it's often because I'm not acting right or I'm not dealing with something that I should be dealing with. It might be because of something going on externally, but that's on at least some level going to be connected to my choices as well, and me probably making a bad choice in terms of engaging with somebody I shouldn't have been engaging with, or being involved in a situation that I didn't deal with correctly or shouldn't have been involved with, or I don't know, something like that.
I think that's the majority of the anxiety I've felt in my life has been that. And there have been times I've been really anxious for reasons that weren't about my personal integrity. Like I think, when my child had cancer, I was really anxious all the time, but that's a different circumstance,
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think when people aren't living according to their own moral code and they're living out of their own integrity, they're much more likely to feel anxious and depressed and out of sorts.
Yeah, I think so too. So to what Matt Walsh said to that comment earlier, saying loyalty and integrity are essential virtues for a man, blah, blah, blah. He has 4 sons. He raises them to keep their promises. And Andrew Tate responds and says, agreed on this point, which is why any man with a brain doesn't hand over keys to his castle to a misandric legal system and over-emotional, unchecked females. The world's changed, Matt. Women are a fraction of what they were. Telling men, how would he know? He doesn't know any women.
Yeah, I know. It's
telling
disgusting.
men, I'm serious, he doesn't know any women. He's had sex with or raped a number of very young women, but he doesn't know any women. He doesn't have any women in his life. He doesn't have relationships with any women. He knows nothing about women. Women are a fraction of what they were. Telling men to just get married and be loyal gets men wrecked. The only way they hold the relationship together is to give up any ounce of masculinity. Living hell. The smartest move on the chessboard for a man now is to get rich and to have as many children as he wants from as many women as he wants and take care of them all. Second world, avoid first world courts. Own your empire. See, he wants Sharia law too.
Yeah,
Own your empire for real. Own your empire and women will respect you in return for provision. 4 sons isn't bad. I have more and always will. He's such a child. And no woman can steal my hundreds of millions. Marriage is that he got through crypto scams. Marriage is suicide. Feminists built a world where females have no duty as wives and every possibility to destroy you. If you can't change the game, win the game.
Yeah, I think that a man's opinion of Andrew Tate should be a first date question, and that any man who does not despise Andrew Tate is a man you shouldn't get into a relationship with.
That's
And-
too simple. Because what if, I mean, most men probably don't know that much about Andrew Tate.
Okay, you're right. But I think that if they do, they need to despise him and think the world would be better if he were dead. I just hate the guy so much. And I do meet young men who idolize this guy, and it's disgusting. And any woman with any bit of integrity and self-respect needs to stay away from those guys. He's just like he's a caricature, but it's disgusting. I can't believe he's making Matt Walsh look like a mensch. It's making Matt Walsh look like somebody who respects women. Gross.
Well, but what do you think about what he's saying, though, that what men should do is just to have as many children as they possibly can with a bunch of different women? I think aside from your opinion about Andrew Tate, like that idea.
Like Genghis Khan, like a rapist invader of.
I guess so. I mean, Matt Walsh responded and said, the setup you describe where men have children by lots of different women has already been tried. We've seen it in primitive cultures, and we see it today in the most dysfunctional, filthy, and crime-ridden communities in America. He's being a little bit racist there. This kind of setup is natural in the sense that it appeals to our most base and uncivilized impulses. It's primitive and animalistic, which is why it's so commonly found in the animal kingdom. Reptiles and monkeys behave this way, but we're human beings. Monogamy and the nuclear family call us to something higher. It's not natural, but supernatural. Man and wife become one at the altar in a mystical, though still very real way. Perhaps this is a riskier and more difficult path, but a man should not shy away from the riskier and more difficult path. The greatest happiness and most meaningful successes in life are found down this path. See, like all of what he's saying here, I think is really true. Like taking the easiest, most base hedonistic path, doing whatever it is that you want to do that will satisfy you in that very moment, usually isn't the best path.
Right, exactly. Hedonism doesn't usually lead to a happy life.
I mean,
in the long run.
Well, yeah, but I think what the argument is, or the question here is, again, that like what's natural versus what's unnatural. Because, one of the questions that comes out of this is monogamy natural? And I think my answer to this is that whether or not it's natural doesn't really matter all that much, because it's what's good for the kids and for women and for people in general. If you're going to do non-monogamy, it's going to cause a lot of problems in a wide variety of ways.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with Matt Walsh on this. And I think that teaching people sexual restraint and putting your family before yourself and keeping your promises and being loyal and being steady, those are excellent virtues to teach our children. I'm a fan of marriage. I'm not going to push it on anybody. I don't think it should be the law, but I kind of understand what he's saying there. I'm in a happy marriage and feel very much like a unit with my husband. Like I'm not in competition with him. Like we're a team. Like we're one organism in a lot of ways. I don't want to live in Andrew Tate's universe. I think it's disgusting, and it has been tried. And this was one of the main, it's like the setup for the Crusades, right? That like Christianity versus Islam, like a big way that they got women on board with that campaign for Christianity was, well, it's a better deal for you. Monogamy and chivalry, and your man is committed to you versus your chattel in a harem. That's, women preferred that. It was a better deal for them. And when you read the history of the advent of Christianity, why were so many of the early Christians female? Because it was a much better deal for them than what the freaking Romans were offering, which again was like, you're just a breeding unit for men and you have no rights, and there is no protection for you legally. And you've got Paul preaching monogamy and loving your wife. It seemed like a better deal. So I would agree that Matt Walsh is, I think what he's postulating there is creates a better society than what Andrew Tate is, which is like have sex with as many women, own women, degrade them constantly, and have as many children as possible.
I mean, I don't know if I take Andrew Tate all that seriously, to be honest. I think that oftentimes he's just trolling, and somebody said this in the comments too, and I tend to agree that he's trying to say like sort of extremist, insane things to get attention and money. But I mean, I also do think that he's genuinely a terrible person and abuses and rapes women. But I think, that the question of is monogamy natural for humans, or is something that I guess is like interesting.
Are clothes natural for humans? Like,
right.
Are traffic rules natural for humans? Is reading natural for humans? Like, what the fuck is
I mean, killing is natural for humans.
Totally.
War is natural for humans. Rape is natural for humans.
Infanticide is natural for humans. You know, all of these things are natural for humans, probably. It's what, like, the way we're living is not natural for humans. So let's have some rules and kind of figure out what's going to make the best society. We have different ideas about that. But
yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, it's good to treat other people with respect and dignity. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's natural to human beings. I mean, the reasons for monogamy are not only about desire. Like, I think that humans are on a big level drawn towards monogamy because they're drawn towards these kinds of love relationships with one another, and they're built and have evolved to a bond with one another. I think what I question is, in the long term, whether, till death do us part is natural. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing if you can do it and you're happy. But that part really doesn't seem very natural to human beings, just because of, in large part, because of how the female libido works. I think that for men, for the most part, they do seem to want to have sex with their wives forever and ever and ever. I've never been with a man who just lost interest in having sex with me. And usually with most of my friends who are in marriages or really long-term relationships, the men are feeling like they're not getting enough sex from their wives and girlfriends, which tells me that they want to be having sex with their wives and girlfriends, but their wives and girlfriends have lost interest because the female libido tends to sort of decline after they've been with a man for a while. They do seem to kind of like lose interest for whatever reason.
I don't know. I mean, I talk to a lot of people having marital problems. I think what I hear in my practice is kind of half and half. Sometimes the men are losing interest. Sometimes the women are. I think humans get bored. There are plenty of species that are monogamous for life. There are a lot of indigenous stories around the world that the humans, we're young, we got here late, and we have to look to the other creatures for how we want to live. And I think that guys like Andrew Tate want to live like a chicken or a harem bird. They want to be like a cock with a flock of hens, where Matt Walsh maybe wants to be more like an eagle that mates for life. The wolves mate for life. The coyotes mate for life. The cranes mate for life. Like, we want to look at what's natural. There are plenty of examples of lifelong monogamy. Humans are, intellectually more antsy, and I think people do get bored. I don't think it's just the female libido. I know countless women who've left their men because they've left their husbands because he wasn't into having sex. Like, his libido just tanked and just wasn't really interested in sex anymore. I also know men who are dissatisfied because their wives and girlfriends don't want as much sex as they did. So I'm not sure I'm going to generalize it according to the sex of the person who's dissatisfied.
Well, so I think that then the other question is if it's normal, which it does seem to be relatively normal, that people lose interest in sex after they've been with somebody for a long period of time, then what do they do?
Okay, somebody said no large mammals are monogamous. That's true. Wolves and coyotes are monogamous. But okay, so what do you do if you've lost interest? You spice up your life. Like, you try to remember how you fell in love. You try to get back to that feeling. You take a ballroom dancing class. Like, you go explore each other. You take MDMA together, or do a mushroom trip together. You go on a vacation. Like, you don't leave someone because the sex is boring, because then you're just going to leave that person when the sex gets
Not the
boring. And
sex
then
is boring. You're not having sex.
Well, then yeah. Okay. So you
don't want to have sex with that person anymore.
Okay. Someone who's been married. I've been with my partner for almost 30 years. And it's like, sometimes I breathe them in, sometimes I breathe them out. It's like we go through times when we're like just crazy about each other. And then we go through times where it's just a little bit like meh, and I think you wait it out and you work on it, and you remember you're committed to each other. You think about how much the dating market sucks and how you don't want to re-enter that, and you figure out a way. I don't know. I mean, I only know my own relationship, and then talking to other people who've been together for 30 to 50 years, that it's, these phases come and go. And when you talk to a couple who's been happily married for 50 years, it's not like they didn't go through that. They reignited the spark.
Everyday Taekwondo in the comments says most relationship conflicts could be resolved by physical exercise. And I do kind of agree with that.
That's probably true. I think that's probably
it's good
true.
for the libido, like testosterone. Yeah. I mean, a lot of relationship bed death, I think could be resolved through testosterone.
Again, exercise is good. It just moves through stagnation. Same with hobbies. Like take a glass blowing class. That's literally hot. Like glass blowing is really sexy. Like that's a fun thing to do. It is like the whole experience of it is fraught with innuendo. Like get a hobby together, something sexy, where you're creating together. When you look at what cultures have done historically, dancing has always been about, helping men and women connect sexually. And I think that can spice up a marriage a lot. I know a lot of women who've left their husbands because he's refused to take a dance class with her, where her asking for a dance class is asking for him to learn to sexually reconnect with her and to spice it up with her. And if he doesn't get that, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I would suggest people stop living together. I think that would spice things up.
Yeah, I mean, it helped my marriage when when the kids moved out and we got our separate spaces. Like I always thought that meant like you weren't having sex anymore, you didn't like each other anymore. But I needed my own space in the house that like is mine, and I'm not dealing with somebody else's mess.
I think you kind of want to miss somebody. I think that's like a big part of it, is because I mean, so Gigi Gumdrops in the comments just said, there's many couples that live like roommates. I was surprised to hear from the priest at work that told me this is a bigger reality than one would think. That doesn't surprise me at all. I think most couples kind of live like roommates and don't have any intimacy or connection or sex, and they're just kind of permanently annoyed by each other, which is why I'm saying people live together, which is essentially like have your own lives and have space and like give yourself a chance to miss the other person and to wonder about them and to think about them. I think that creates a lot of desire. Actually, I think that a lot of people in relationships just get like way too comfortable and take each other for granted. And then where does the desire factor in? I mean, I don't know. I've never been in a marriage, but I can speak from having been in lots of long-term relationships and having felt like that and having lost interest in having sex with my partner and them being angry and miserable about that, and me feeling like, I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. Oh, so on that note, I probably need to go home because I'm missing my husband.
That's not a good reason to get off the live stream. That's codependence.
No.
No, that's okay. You can get off the live stream. That's okay. We can end the live stream at some point tonight.
I'll do my homework the next time. I promise. I'll do my homework.
Well, that's okay, because it works for me to have to try to explain what I'm talking about also, as though the other person has no idea what I'm talking about.
Right.
And to ask questions and things like that. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I enjoyed this conversation as always. And we're here every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I post all of these video convos on Spotify after the fact and on my and Mary Lou's Substack. My Substack is at meganmurphy.ca. And if you would like to become a paid subscriber, I would very much appreciate that, because this is how I sustain my work. And this is why I am free from Russian interference, as well as why I'm not a CIA asset. So yeah, that would be helpful. Mary Lou's on Substack at Mary Lou Singleton. And I am on X at Meghan E. Murphy. Mary Lou is on X at ML_Singleton. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks, Mary Lou. As always, we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, Megan. See you next week.
Okay.